Hey guys, how's it going? This is Greg. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a flowing flag animation entirely in After Effects using Trapcode Form. So let's take a look and see what we're going to be creating today. So here you see I've got a flowing flag. This is created with Form entirely in After Effects. This is a fully 3D effect, so I can actually stop this, grab my camera tool, and I can pan this around. It's a little bit heavy right now since we're at the end of the effect, but you can see that this is completely 3D. I can re-render just a little bit, and you can see that it still animates fully in 3D. So why would we want to create a flag inside After Effects rather than going into a 3D program? Because obviously in a 3D program you're going to get real simulations, you're going to have real forces and effects acting on that fabric, and you're going to have a lot more control. But sometimes you just need to do something fast. You've got maybe a flag in the background, maybe a little bit of cloth that just needs to have a little bit of realistic movement without actually interacting with other 3D objects in the scene. And for that you can get away with things like Trapcode Form and other effects for creating this flag when it doesn't need to be perfect, but it just needs to get your point across. And that's where this comes into effect. So let's get started on how we would create this. So I'm going to create a new scene. I'm going to close this out and create a new project. Don't save. Control N. Let's create a new comp. 960 by 540. Let's call this flag master. Looks good. Okay. And now inside this, let's make a new solid. So I'm just going to hit new solid. And let's see, we'll make comp size, and let's make it half the size. And to make it half the size, I can just go in here. I can lock the aspect ratio. I can go in here and say divided by 2, and that automatically gives me a half size comp, 480 by 270. And we'll call this flag color. And say OK. Alright, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pre-comp this by hitting Control-Shift-C. Bring that over. Flag color is fine. Leave all attributes in flag master. Good, OK. We'll go into flag color. So let's start making our flag. So what I'd like to do is create some stripes on here, and there's a couple different ways of creating stripes, but my personal favorite way is I go into generate, checkerboard, and then this gives me this checkerboard. What I can do is change this size from width slider to width and height sliders, and then just drag the width way out and move over the offset point. And now I've got stripes. If I drag the height slider up, I can determine how many stripes I get. So let's say 27. That's 10 stripes. That should be good. You know what? Let's colorize this. Let's make the stripes kind of a deep red here. And now by default, when you go to checkerboard, if I turn off my background layer, I can see that that's actually transparent. That's not what I want. I want it to have, I want the actual color of the solid to show through. So what I have to do is change the blending mode from none to normal, and that'll switch the solid back on. So now it's actually a solid piece. So what else do we want to do? Let's make a little box up in the corner here. So let's grab our shape tool, our rectangle, and we'll just make fill. Let's give it like maybe a blue. Make sort of a vaguely American flag. Why not? Drag this out. About there. That's good. And I don't want to go through all the process of making a million different stars, so let's just make, let's just go back to our shape tool, go to our star, and we'll set our color to a lighter color. And Control-Shift, we'll drag out our shape. That's pretty tough to see. So without letting go of the mouse button, I can use my arrow keys. You know what, I'm going to make this a little easier to see. So what I'm using right here is Control and my arrow keys to control the curve of this star. That's kind of fun. And then, so left and right controls the width of the curve here. So this is left, this is right. Up and down controls the number of points on this star. So here's going up, creates more points, going down creates less points. So let's make like a, what is that, a 7-leaf clover? Yeah, that's great. All right, sure. So we'll accept that, and sure, why not? Okay. So this is going to be our flag. This is our flag color. So we can close this out. We'll go back to our flag master. So now we've got this as a comp. Now what I want to do is create a second solid. Control Y. Same size. Actually, you know what? Let's make this comp size. And this is going to be form flag. This is what we're going to have our form layer on. So this is a comp size solid, and we're going to go put Trapcode Form on it. Okay, so if you haven't used Form before, let me just show you what this is. So Form is a particle system, but it's different than particle systems like Particular or Particle Playground or Particle World in that it doesn't have an emitter. It is a fully 3D effect, so if I create a new camera, let's just the 35 millimeters, fine. Okay, so I can actually move around this, and what you see here is it's actually creating particle arrays, right? So I can zoom in, and this is actually an array of particles in the X and Y axis, and then there's 3 layers going back in Z space. And these particles don't have any sort of lifetime. They don't have a birth or a death time. They just are permanently, and they just stay in space, right? So I can do a lot of different things with this. Let's zoom back out. Let's get rid of this. Let's actually just reset this camera. Transform, reset. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I only want 1 layer of particles here. So we work from the top to bottom. We go into our form, start in the base form. Particles in Z space, I want to set that to 1. Now we have 1 layer of particles. Right? Now I know that I need to set my particles, my size and my particles in XY to the same size as my flag color comp, right? Because I'm going to set my flag color to drive what this form looks like. So you'll see that in a second. So my form, I'm going to go X is going to be 480 and Y is going to be 270. So that's the same size as my comp. Let me turn that back on so you can see. Now also, my particles in X for right now I'm going to set to 480 and in Y 270. So basically what I'm doing here is saying that there is 1 particle per pixel of this comp. And what I'm going to be doing is mapping the RGB values of this comp onto the pixels of the form layer. Alright, so what we're going to do real quick is we'll go to particle. Particle is fine, so each size is, it's 1 pixel per particle, so that's good. We'll go into layer maps, and we're going to go to the color and alpha. And in the color and alpha, we're going to select for the layer flag color. Now, nothing's going to happen here. You go, wait, what's going on? Nothing happens. What you got to do is tell it how you want it to map that RGB value across. So I want it to map across the X and Y axis. So I'm going to say map over XY. Bam, there it is. There's my RGB being mapped over this, and I can go back to my camera. It's actually on the form now. And you might be saying, wait a minute, that doesn't look anything like what you created in your flag. And that's because, by default, form sets its particles to an add mode. So each of the particles are adding to each other. If I go into my particle drop down here, transfer mode, set this to normal, bam, there is my flag in full color. Alright, so we want this to move. So the way the form actually moves is just like you would create a fractal field in fractal noise or turbulent noise. You're going to open up the fractal field node here, and we're going to create fractal noise, and we're going to move it through the particle array. And as it interacts with the particle array, it's going to displace the particles in X, Y, and Z axes. So what I want to do first is drop my displacement mode down to X, Y, Z individual, so I have individual controls over each direction, each axis. And let's increase the displacement. So let's just say this is 50 across the board. So now what you see happening, if we play this, now the flag is sort of moving in sort of a weird, sort of undulating fashion. You know what, I'm just going to, for the sake of this, I'm going to drop this down to half res, so it renders just a little bit faster. This is a little bit of a heavy effect because it's a lot of particles being moved at once. Okay, so your flag is starting to get somewhere here. Somewhere kind of crappy, but it's getting there. What I want to do is I want to specify the direction for the wind. So if I want the wind coming from the left and going to the right, I want to set my flow in the X up. So let's say we've set our flow to 400 pixels per second in the x-axis. So now when I play it, you can see that this fractal is actually moving from left to right through my flag. And we're starting to get a little bit of a wave feeling here. Right? Alright, cool. But what I want to do next is actually turn on my shading options so you can see these undulations a little bit better. So let's go into shading, shadowlet. Don't worry about the shading, leave that off. What I'm concerned about is the shadowlet. And then what the shadowlet actually does is that is how the particles are self-shadowing. So particles are creating shadows for themselves. So I'm going to turn this on, and all of a sudden you can see we've got all of this shading going on in here. It's pretty cool. So actually that doesn't look so bad by itself. That's a really good start where it starts off with. So it's moving through, you're getting kind of some cloth functions here. So what I want to do though is I'm going to create a light. This is how you control the shadow direction in Form. I'm going to create a new light, and I'm going to name it Shadows. That is how Form knows that this is the light to use when it's calculating the shadows. If you name it anything else, it won't know it. So now I can take this light, and I should be able to move it around. Did I do that wrong? Maybe it's called shadow. Well, let's take a look here. Options. Does it need to be a capital S? I guess so. All right. So now we've got the shadow light working. It's right in the middle, so let's move it up. Let's move it back in the Z space. Doesn't appear to be updating, does it? If we go into shading and twirl down the shadowlet settings, we can bump up the opacity of these shadows a bit so they're a little easier to see. And then maybe this will go a little bit easier. Alright, here we go. So we start moving this up. So it's really light coming from above. Let's move it towards us in Z space. Oh, let's try going away from us in Z space. Alright, so we can, there we go. Now we're getting some control over this. So let's play this and see how this looks. So, alright, now we've got our shadows kind of moving through. We can turn the opacity back down a little bit. Back down, let's say 5. That might be a little bit low. Go back up to 10. Alright, let's say we're happy with that. So we've got these shadows moving through the flag, and they're looking good. So what I want to do actually right now is create a flagpole for this. So super easy. We will just create a new solid. Let's say it's a width of 30 and a height of 400. And this will be Flagpole. It's kind of gross looking flagpole. Let's change the size of that. Maybe 20 by 480. Okay. And move this into place. And let's just throw a gradient on this. So if I right click and go to layer styles, I can go to gradient overlay, and we will go to reflected style and change the angle to 0. Sure, that's pretty easy. Edit gradient. And let's just make this a little nicer. So we'll bring the color in, and we'll create another gray. Oops. Another gray for the rim light here. And we'll lighten up that black so it's not completely black. And say OK. Alright, so if we go to full, that looks fine. And let's put this flagpole as a 3D layer. So that now, if we move our camera around, flagpole stays with the flag. There we go. So now the only problem is, when I play this, the flag is not staying attached to the flagpole. It's moving all around, right? That's because we need to go in and tell it how strong we want the fractal to be at any point across this axis. So what I can do is duplicate the flag color comp here, and we'll rename this flag mat. Sure. And let's open this up. So what we can do is actually create a grayscale value for to tell form how strong to move the pixels, how much of a fractal influence that's going to have. So what we can easily do is just create a new solid in here, make this comp size, good, and we're going to create a ramp. And where the pixels are black, there's going to be no movement, and where they're white is going to be full movement. So if we just position the ramp like this, so that on this side of the flag there's very little fractal influence, and on this side of the flag there's full fractal influence, we can actually bring this in a bit. Now we go back to our flag master, drag in our form mat. It's right back here. We can disable the visibility on here, and if we go back to form and go back to our layer maps, then we go to fractal strength, set our layer to flag mat, and map over XY just like before. And suddenly that flag snaps into place, and over here there's no fractal noise, and there's more as it goes on, right? So now it's locked to that flagpole very nicely. All right. So we're starting to get some cool things in here. I'm just going to go back and adjust some of these settings a little bit. So I want this, let's say, we go into our fractal field. First off, let's turn on the loop. Let's say it loops after every 5 seconds. Bring the loop down. So now when it hits 5 seconds, it loops around. We want to adjust the size of this. We can go to F-scale. So in F-scale, the fractal size is sort of opposite of what you would think. So a larger F-scale actually produces smaller ripples. So if I go up to 15, those ripples are going to be more intense and smaller. If I go down to 7, they're going to be much larger ripples. So what kind of a flag? Maybe this is, let's say this is like a really big, large flag with big ripples in it. So let's just maybe set this to 12. And I don't like what it's doing here. Let's try the Y displacement. Set this up a bit. Maybe the X displacement, so really get some churn in there. And maybe there's a little bit of downward movement, or up, yeah, a little bit of downward movement. So let's push the flow Y down just a bit. Maybe 40. Okay, so I'm liking where this is going. Maybe we can actually set the complexity down to 2, so it's a little less harsh. And I kind of want to do something about these shadows. I'm not really happy with them at the moment. So let's go back up to our shading. And we will adjust, let's see, if we adjust the distance, that's going to give us a little bit more shadows in there. Okay, I'm pretty happy with where this is going now. Now see what we're getting here is we're getting a little bit of separation. As the pixels stretch out and get displaced, you're actually seeing through this a little bit. You can probably see this a little bit better if I turn on. See how we can sort of see through. Yeah, actually it's doing a pretty good job right now. Yeah, okay. So like here, you can sort of see through the flag just a bit. And yeah, right up in here. So an easy way to do that, to fix that, is just I can do one of two things. I can either up the particle size to say 1.2, and that'll clear things up a little bit, make it more solid, or I could adjust the particles in X and Y to be higher. As long as the size stays the same, if I adjust the size, my flag is going to start to stretch. So I don't want to do that. But I can adjust the particles count, and it's just going to make it fuller. So I can adjust this to 480. See, you can see things get darker. Things are a little bit more filled in. You're still getting a little bit of lines here, so I can adjust the particles in X up to, say, 600. Yeah, okay. Well, for the sake of this right now, let's put this back down to 480 by 270, just because the render time is a little bit ridiculous. And over in the shading, we can up the opacity to, say, 15. All right, so a little bit darker. Let's flip my background back off. Okay. So now, what I'm seeing here actually is that well, here, let's do this first. The cool thing about this is that not only does it take color into consideration, but it also takes alpha when you're doing this map. So I can go into my color map, and let's say that I want to create some tatters in this. I can create a new solid. This is going to be tatter matte, and let's draw out some tatters with the mask. Get the pen tool, and we'll just kind of tear this flag up a little bit. Say this is kind of a war-torn United States, Ireland, whatever this is. Alright, so great. Okay, so we'll finish off this matte, and then we will set this, hit F4, bring up our track mats, and we'll set this to alpha matte inverted. So now we have a flag with an alpha matte on it and some tatters. If we go back into our flag master, we go to our form and set in the layer maps from RGB to RGB. Instead, we'll go to RGBA to RGBA, and suddenly we've got tatters in here. Very cool, because it takes the alpha into effect, and you can get some nice effects there. So it's not just a straight up rectangle all the time. And you can do whatever you want with that. You could put some holes in here. You could, it'll all adjust all on the fly. All of this is completely dynamic, so as soon as I change my flag mat, it's going to update in the form. So the last thing I want to look at here is these shadows aren't looking very good to me. That's just kind of an artifact of form. They tend to create these streaks through the shadows just based on, it's a particle array, right? So it's going to give you all of these lines, rows and columns of particles, and that's seen pretty easily in the shadows. So what I think I want to do to combat that, let's turn off our background again, is I'm going to make a duplicate of this layer, and I'm going to rename it Flag Shadows. And on the Flag Shadows layer, I'm going to turn off my layer map so that all I'm getting is shadows. And then we'll shut this off, and on the form flag, I'm going to turn off my shading. I'm sorry, I'm going to turn off my shadowlet. Turn my shadows back on. I'm going to set this to multiply, and then I'm going to add a fast blur. Not too high. I think maybe a 4 should do it. Yeah, so that blurs out my shadows, maybe even 3. This blurs out my shadows, and I'm also going to set my transparency matte on so that it sticks to the flag itself and doesn't go outside the bounds. And let's preview this again. So what we've got here is the shadows being multiplied onto the matte. We've got nice soft shadows here. You can tweak this as much as you want. Let's just wait for this to render. Alright, so this is rendered now, so let's see what we've got here. Alright, so this is looking pretty cool. We've got our flag rippling pretty well in the wind here. We could go back and make a couple adjustments if we wanted, but you know, it depends on the scene, how fast the wind is flowing, how large this flag is. If the flag is really big, then it's going to be, the ripples are going to be going through much slower. But if it's smaller, you're going to have it, the ripples are going much faster. It's going to, you know, how you render this is going to really inform the viewer of the style of fabric. Is it really heavy? Is it really light like silk? So there's a lot of little adjustments that you can do and tweaks, but I'll let you play around with that. So I hope that you found this interesting and fun, and thanks for watching. Bye.